Well, good morning, everybody. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Haley.
Yeah, Happy New Year, Dan.
How are you doing?
I don't know how to answer that.
Wow, great big long pause. We're off to a rollicking good start on the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show, sponsored by Benjamin Moore. Now, I know what's going on. You've got illness in the house that has not really left since near Thanksgiving, before Thanksgiving.
I mean, honestly, I feel like since Wallace has started daycare, it's just been nonstop.
Nonstop.
Yeah.
Now it's an ear infection or something like that.
Yes.
And whatever it is, it definitely impacts you, right? You can't sleep, you can't.
Right. I'm just exhausted. And I feel terrible for him, of course. But, it affects my mental capabilities as well.
Right. It affects your ability to care after a while. So, yeah, that's been Haley's New Year, off to a great start.
I really hoped 2024 was going to be
Well, it's not over, Haley. It's just starting.
Yeah.
You're just off to a little bit of a bump.
True.
It's going to get fine. He's going to be healthy as a horse all the time. Just the paragon of health.
Yes.
That's what you've got coming this year. I predict and promise it. And not many people.
I've got the Dan guarantee.
Yeah, not many people can get that. But when you do, it's gold. You take that to the bank. So anyway, that's Haley's New Year. My New Year's off to a decent start, as well as they can be. I'm happy with it. Everybody's had a great holiday. We had a lot of fun at home. I had some time off with the kids. We played a couple of reruns. We apologize for that. I don't like doing that, but we did mix them up a little bit. So it wasn't just a full show on rerun. And
it was good information still. I mean, it's always kind of nice to revisit some of that stuff.
Yeah, things that fall from our mouth are like honey, when it comes to the quality. I don't even know where I'm going with that. Anyway, we're back. We've got all kinds of stuff planned. Today is going to be an unusual episode. Earlier in the week, I think right around New Year's Day, Dave Altena, he's the son of the founder. The founder of RepcoLite was Ben Altena.
Right.
His son Dave worked in the company his whole life pretty much.
Right, exactly.
Was president of the company for, I think, 30 years or so, and then handed it off to his son Dan, who's been on the radio with us multiple times. Anyway, Dave, Dan's dad, passed away earlier this week, right after the turn of the new year. And
so it's been a weird start to the new year.
It has been. It's something that everybody in the company, or at least most of us, were aware it was coming. Everybody knew what was happening. But when it happens, when you've got somebody who you've worked with, I've worked with Dave.
Well, right.
For 26 years now.
He hired you.
He hired me. And honestly, that is interesting. I'll tell that in a minute. But for the rest of the show, not the whole show, we've got some stuff. I'm not even sure what we're going to do at the end. What we've got in the middle of the show is an interview that we snagged with Dave about 3 weeks ago. And it's not going to be Haley and I talking in the middle part of the show.
No, it's Dan and Dave talking father and son about their experience in the company over the years and kind of reflecting on all of those memories together. And I think it's a really interesting conversation. Right.
We'll get some insight into what the paint industry was like.
Right.
What Dave remembers when he was 8, some of the stuff he was doing as the company was getting, on its feet off the ground here. And we've even snagged a chunk of the interview talks about how the RepcoLite name came about.
Yes, because people always have questions about that.
They always have questions about that. And we've got the answers coming up. But like Haley mentioned, Dave hired me. That's something that does come out. That particular little piece of information doesn't come out. But Dave talks about some of the people he hired.
Yeah, he's like, it's all new faces here.
Right, that there's a few of them hanging around. I'm one of those few. And Dave did hire me. And man, I really appreciated that. When we finished that interview, I thanked him for hiring me as he was leaving. And I don't think he remembers all the drama of my hire.
Of course there is drama.
There's a lot of drama around pretty much everything I do. But my hiring was the same thing. I remember I took a job. I didn't go back. I was going to be a pastor. That's what I was going to do. And then I decided, okay, that's not quite right. So I ended up, I need to get a job, a real job.
Yeah, I need to make some money. So what am I going to do?
At a sign company. And it was good work, but it wasn't my thing. I was going to be a pastor. I got to do something bigger. I got to do something better. And some friends of ours who were painters said, you should go talk to the guys at RepcoLite. They need somebody at the Cedar Village store, in Holland. They need help over there. Maybe you'd be great. So I go over there and, oh, this feels good. I think this is good. The manager there liked me. He sent me straight to Dave. Go talk to Dave Altena in the office at 17th Street. And so I did. And Dave offered me the job. I said, I'll take it. Then I went home, and then I started thinking, oh boy, I don't know. Maybe this isn't the future for me. So I declined it. And then I went back to the sign place. And then I thought, this is terrible. I wonder if Dave would still hire me a couple days later. So I talked to him again. And then we have a big sit down in his office again. And I said, but is there any future for me here? Do I move
Sure, yeah, that's reasonable.
beyond being in the store? And he said, you could have my job someday. I'm still waiting for that one. That hasn't happened yet. But I did move up. Dan. He moved me. Yeah, who knows? It's going to take a coup to get there. But anyway, he made that talk and said that could happen. I believe that there's a future here.
Yeah.
I go back, and then I'm debating again. Maybe I need to just go something else. I don't know.
Dan.
And I'm praying about it, and I'm working the sign shop, and I get an order on the phone. And I grab a pen to write down the order. And I've been praying, what do I do? What do I do, God? Mm-hmm. And as I took the order, I hung up the phone and looked at the pen. It was a RepcoLite pen.
Weird.
The only one in the whole place.
Oh, my gosh.
I took the job, and there we go. So, all right, that's my opening story. That's one of my favorite recollections of Dave is just his patience with hiring me.
I mean, really.
And over and over again. Now we're going to take a break. Yeah. And when we come back, we're going to have that interview between Dan and Dave, and just sit back and enjoy. That's all coming up next. Stick around. And we're back. You're listening to the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show, sponsored by Benjamin Moore. And Haley, we're going to get to that interview.
Right, between Dan and Dave, father and son, talking about their time at RepcoLite together and the history of the company.
Yeah, so anyway, we recorded this about 3 weeks or so ago, and Dave is going to basically just jump right in, talking about RepcoLite and where it started in a chicken hatchery.
Yes.
So that's where we're going to pick up right now.
It was in the basement of a hatchery on 32nd Street. And this was a low ceiling type of a thing, maybe a 7-foot ceiling. And at that time, what we had was called a stone mill, which was a big barrel filled with a bunch of polished pebbles. And you'd put all the ingredients for the paint in there, start the thing up, let it run for 24 hours, and then unload it and then thin it down. It was kind of cute. My dad used to load that. And there was a spot on the ceiling where he rubbed his head. That was just as shiny as could be.
Really?
Yeah. Then they'd finish up with that paint, and they'd probably make 35 gallons a day, maybe something like that. Drop it in the back of the car, had a regular route, During those days, there was no color machines or anything like that. So all the painters made their colors on the job.
Yeah, by eye.
So all we made was white. And put it out there that way. So
how many different kinds of paint?
Mostly exterior, if I remember correctly, but then they went into some interior stuff as well, yeah.
And all oil-based,
all oil-based. And it wasn't until after the Second World War that actually alkyds came in. Before that, it was tung oil, it was linseed
natural
oil.
drying oils.
Yeah, and so everything yellowed.
Yeah, right.
Everything yellowed.
Took a long time to dry.
Yeah, forever. Yeah, forever. And they would use some ester gum or something like that in there to harden the stuff up. But it was a procedure, I'll tell you. And then as things progressed after the war, alkyds came around, and then of course all your formulas had to change. So he would work on that. My dad would work on this. But at that time they had moved to 17th Street.
Okay.
Yeah. They didn't stay in there. And my dad didn't like that low ceiling, so they got out of there as fast as they could.
How old were you when that happened, do you think?
I was 8, maybe.
Okay. So you remember the chicken hatchery, though? You remember going there? And...
I was going to, in the front of the chicken hatchery, they had a display case with brushes and stuff like that in it, that they would sell to people. So
it was actually a retail store even a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit, but it was mainly a painter outfit.
Yeah, right.
So
there wasn't very much do-it-yourself back then anyway, probably.
No. People didn't know how to mix colors.
Yeah, right.
All the colors were mixed on the job. And so, and these painting contractors, they had the expertise to do that. They knew how to do it. Now you could really start making good paint when you had alkyds.
Yeah, right. You could tailor all the properties and the dry times.
That made all of good paint.
That wasn't until after World War II. I didn't realize that.
I think it came about during World War II.
Okay.
I think part of the chemistry was developed during
some kind of wartime thing. Right. Same with titanium dioxide, right? I mean, prior to the World War II, it was white lead.
We had white lead, we had zinc oxide, and we had what was called lithopone, which was a zinc compound of something or other.
White. It was white.
It was white. That's how you made it white. And it wasn't very white. I mean...
creamy colored?
Yeah. You couldn't get anything white. And then, of course, because it was all oil-based, everything yellowed. So...
I can imagine it was heavy, too, with the lead in there.
Oh, yeah. That was heavy stuff.
Yeah. So you started doing formulation stuff kind of right away?
Maybe after a couple of years. After I got out of college, I had taken some chemistry, which, by the way, doesn't mean anything.
No, right.
Because this paint formulation, you know, like baking a cake.
That's exactly how I describe it to people. I'm like, it's like being a baker, right? And
Yep.
you know what the ingredients are, and you know you can go too far or not far enough with any certain ingredient and make bad bread or bad paint.
Yep.
But sometimes it's kind of a mystery. It's not really a chemical thing. It's very complex chemistry going on that people don't even really understand. To this day, there's stuff that, you know, some of our suppliers, they're like, try this. And if that doesn't work, then try this. And if that doesn't work, then try this. Because there's no way to know for sure what's going to actually work.
It was simple in the days of the original alkyds.
So the advent of latex paint happened probably when you were just starting to work, right?
Actually, no. I was in it for a little bit of a while, I think. And then I tried to make latex paint.
Ah.
I could make the paint, but I couldn't get it to do what oil-based paint did. Because,
like flow out?
Yeah, flow out and make a nice-looking job. Well, finally it gave up because everybody was coming out with latex paint and nobody could get it to flow out.
Oh.
So you just, you know, you did it. And it was all flat in those days. There was no semi-gloss or satin sheen or anything like that. It was all flat.
Right. Well, even in my career, originally it was flat paint and semi-gloss.
Yeah.
And then there was satin sheen, and then now there's eggshell and matte, and you know, it's like 7 different sheens, and it used to be 2. You want semi-gloss or you want flat?
Yeah. Semi-gloss for woodwork, flat for the walls. You know?
The gloss paint was the other one, you know. That was
always
fairly
gloss.
common too.
Yeah, there was always the gloss too. Yeah.
What kind of batch sizes was it when it was early on? 50, hundreds?
I think we made 50s for a while, but I think it was hundreds. Yeah. It wasn't long when we were making 100 at a time.
And then canning was all pretty manual process?
It was all manual. Labeling was all manual.
Yeah, right.
So.
Did you had cardboard boxes like we still use now? 4 cans in a box?
Yeah.
I remember one of my first jobs was making the boxes. And we didn't use tape back then, it was staples.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we had that air stapler and just all day long making boxes. Now they do it with tape, and there's somebody that probably spends a good part of their day making boxes still.
Yeah, it could be.
I remember when I was in kindergarten, you would come and pick me up at noon. I must have had morning kindergarten with this big green flatbed steak truck.
Yeah.
And all the other kids were so jealous that we had this huge truck. I got to ride in this big truck.
Yeah, I drove that truck back and forth to work for, I don't know, a couple of years.
Yeah, I remember going on deliveries with you, and then, you know, you'd wheel a cart of paint to somebody's garage or something like that, and then you'd let me get on the cart, and you'd wheel me back to the truck.
Yeah. My first job for RepcoLite was to go to the dump and pick up bleach bottles, take them home, wash them all out, and bring them to the store. I mean, come on, Dad. Buy some clean cans. Don't make your kid do this.
Well, I remember...
Then that's what they would fill paint thinner and stuff like turpentine and stuff in those Linko bleach bottles.
So how many would you collect at a time?
Oh, you could get a lot of them, let me tell you.
Oh, really?
Oh, because people used a lot of bleach back in those days. That's how you got stuff white, you know. So, yeah.
So like father, like son, I remember one of my first jobs at the paint store was somebody got a brilliant idea of, hey, there's this pickle company down south of here. They have a truckload of used pickle buckets. Oh, yeah. And I'm going to have my kid clean those pickle buckets out.
Yeah.
So I remember having this whole semi-truck full of used pickle buckets. Yeah. And I would work on Saturday. You know, it was on Saturday. I'd come in and I'd fill up a tank with hot water and detergent and one at a time with a bell brush, clean out the inside of those buckets and then stack them upside down to dry. And I remember it took a while. The first maybe third of the semi-truck was good. You know, the buckets were not really that dirty. And then the farther into that truck I got, I was coming in, you know, I'd pull 2 buckets apart and there'd be a dead rat in there. And it was just the grossest thing ever. It was horrible. And I just thought, come on, Dad, spend a couple bucks. Go buy a truckload of regular...
Would you consider that child abuse?
Yeah, pretty much.
That was child abuse, all right, yeah.
But yeah, there's been a lot of good moments too. You know, we've had a lot of fun Christmas parties and gatherings and picnics and
so much fun. Such a wonderful place to work.
Yeah, we had a lot of long-term employees.
A lot of long-term employees, and most of them, a lot of those now, the ones that I hired way back are pretty much out of the picture now.
Yeah,
right?
A lot of them retired, you know. Mm-hmm. So, and we're looking at probably in the next couple of years another round.
Oh, really?
Where it's going to be just me left.
Just you left.
Everybody else will be new. You know, they've only been there for 20 years.
Yeah, but that, you know, that was one great blessing that we had. People came by us, worked by us, and stayed.
And retired, yeah.
And retired, you know. That, I guess that says something about the company and the way the company was run, but it also says a lot about the employees who came to work for us.
Yeah, how dedicated they were.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah,
because there's easier work, you know.
Yeah,
it's not, the paint business is not very easy sometimes.
No.
Yeah, no. We've been blessed for sure.
That is for sure.
You know, several 40-year employees.
Yeah, well, I was at about 50 because I started at 20 and
70 retired.
70 I retired. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't retire, people.
It's not as good as it sounds.
No. I struggled. But it turned out okay. You know?
Yeah.
We got a great place to live, and it's pretty nice. So, but I never got up in the morning that I wasn't eager to get to work.
Yeah.
Always
ready to go.
I'm ready to go. Yeah.
Excited about whatever the day might bring.
And I always was lazy enough that I left enough on my desk so I had something to do the next morning.
You've seen my desk, so you know I've got several things for next morning.
We should put this on the video here. We should put his desk on the video.
Should shame me publicly?
Yeah. I think this would be a really, really good idea.
You think that'd be helpful?
That would be helpful.
You think it might work?
That would be helpful.
I'm not so sure.
Everybody would say, this poor guy needs help. Yeah.
They'll feel sorry for me.
My desk was not much better, I'll tell you that much.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to have the other half of that interview, and we'll get to really the source, the origin of RepcoLite's name.
The origin story, yes.
That's all next. Stick around. And we're back. You're listening to the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show, sponsored by Benjamin Moore, and we're kind of in the middle of a tribute episode.
Yeah.
Dave Altena, the son of the founder of the company.
Right, second generation president.
Yeah, it passed away earlier this week, and we had snagged an interview about 3 weeks before he passed, and we're playing bits and pieces of that right now. The interview is Dan, his son, just sitting and talking to his dad and really recounting the story. So let's just pick up with that again right where we left off.
So when's the last time you painted something?
2 summers ago, probably. Painted my windmill.
Oh, that's right.
I painted my windmill. And I think I painted some windowsills last time I painted a room, oh my goodness, 20 years ago maybe.
Wow.
Because we had a painter do it the last time we did it. So.
Right. You get to a certain stage in life and you can afford to have somebody else paint for you, apparently. I've not reached that stage yet.
I always like to paint. I mean, you should like to paint if you're selling
If you're in the business, yeah, it helps.
If you don't like it, you're in the wrong business. You better find something else. But I always like to paint.
Me too. There's a satisfaction that you get from finishing a job.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing that's satisfying that I think about once in a while, and not so much now that Holland is bigger, but back, I don't know, 20 years plus ago, you'd go into any store, any restaurant, the doctor's office, the hospital, the school, and you knew that all the walls were painted with stuff that that we maybe formulated, we maybe made it, you know. We for sure probably sold it to them, you know.
Yeah.
And there's a certain amount of pride and satisfaction that came from that. Yeah. Now the town's bigger, and there's probably, you can't be so certain of that anymore. No. But in a lot of cases, you still can, Yeah. And that's a satisfying feeling. That's a point of pride for me. Yeah.
So, looking back, from my perspective, but first of all, from your perspective, why have we been successful where thousands of paint companies have gone under?
I think a lot of it has to do with what we've been talking about is finding opportunities or having opportunities come to us and not letting them go past, Mm-hmm. I think that staying humble has something to do with it. We still paint our own house, or I do. Mm-hmm. It's not a corporation. It's just a group of people that are dedicated to this kind of business. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I think that we've been just very blessed and very fortunate to be in a part of the state here that's always had a good economic kind of base and hasn't been subject to the ups and downs other places have. And so I think a lot of it is just plain old, blessed with good fortune, But having a lot of dedicated people is a big part of it too.
Oh yes, it's a big part of it. From my perspective, I think we've always kind of gone along with the idea that we want to be the best. Not because we want to brag about being the best, but because we want to be the best for our customers, for our employees, and for our community and that sort of thing. And I think that comes from a perspective that says you try your best, you do your best. Every time you try to do your best. And I think that's what God requires of us. And so I've always been so happy that starting with my dad and then me and then you, that whole idea has always permeated the entire company, that we want to do our best. We want to do our best in the back room making the paint. We want to do our best delivering the paint. Whatever we're doing, we want to do the best.
Right.
And I think that's something that has stood us in good stead because, like I said, there's thousands of these small paint companies that have gone out of business. And we're still cranking away. So,
We're one of not very many anymore.
No, probably
back in
two in Michigan.
Yeah, there's 2 architectural paint companies in Michigan, and that's an exception even there, to have 2 in one state. I remember the trade magazine, the Paint Journal, originally it was called, and then it got named a couple other things. They would have it was the top 100 paint companies in sales in the United States. And we were knocking on the door of being on that list. Mostly, we were growing, but also because of this attrition thing that you're mentioning. And I remember chasing that, thinking, we need to get on this list. And when I thought, we might make the top 100 this year, they made it the top 50.
Oh,
They switched it to the top 50 and then the top 25. And it's because there was no companies out there. Yeah, right. Yeah. In the 1980s, the early 1980s, there was something like several hundred paint companies like RepcoLite in the United States. Mm-hmm. And now somebody in a kind of related business I was talking to, this is maybe 6 months ago, said that they did some market survey to try to figure out how many architectural paint companies are around. 34, I think he said.
Really?
In the United States. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
34.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when my dad started, there was a paint company in Muskegon, which is now ours.
Yeah, Port City.
There was a paint company, two paint companies in Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
There was a paint company in South Haven. There was a paint company in Kalamazoo. I mean, in that small distance, there were at least five paint companies doing the same thing we were doing.
Yeah, right. And so then it doesn't even count the east side of the state where there was a bunch more.
There was a slug of them on the east side of the state.
Yeah. Somehow we managed to make it this far, right?
Yeah. It's been good.
Yeah, and it's been an interesting journey because there's just been so many turns along the way, you know, and I think that's part of what makes it interesting. First of all, it's something that you can gain a lot of knowledge, but it's hard to master. There's just so many things to know in the coatings world that nobody can know everything.
No.
And so it's a lifelong learning thing. At least that's the way I look at it, you know. Every day, at least, maybe not every day, at least once a week, I get educated on something I didn't know in the paint world, you know.
Yeah.
To me, that's what makes it interesting, keeps it interesting.
Yeah.
And it's constantly evolving. And it's not just trends things, it's technology, it's the way people build houses. It's all kinds of things have changed that have made us need to change, you know.
And so what happens is that you change and you're not fighting that change. You've got to
embrace it. Yeah, you have to.
Right. And so then consequently then by embracing that change, you keep up with the market. And you're able to still compete in the market because you've been willing to make those changes.
Yeah. And you know, again, we've been blessed, like the whole trend towards buying things on the internet hasn't really hit our business at all.
That's right.
People need to see it in real life.
Yep.
They need to touch it, and it's heavy. It's a liquid. It doesn't transport well. So there was never any like offshoring of the paint business, for anybody. It's all made domestically here. So there's been some things like that have gone in our favor. Because if you think about retailers in general, I got to think that we're probably one of the oldest retail, certainly in Holland, maybe in West Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
Everything else has come and gone, and people still want to go to the paint store.
Yeah, there's still that ability to learn that people want to learn. And so they come to the paint store where they can get the advice that they need and the learning that they need and be well taken care of by people who got a smile on their face.
Yeah, it's, you don't want to say cliche like old-fashioned, it's old-fashioned service, but it kind of is, right?
It is.
It's not too many places like that, you know. There's a couple of the country hardware stores that are like that.
There's some hardware stores out there and stuff like that, but most of the time it's the big box, you know.
Yeah, so one of the things that happens all the time still is, how did you come up with this name? Where did this name RepcoLite come from? You know, every other paint company is last name. Sherwin Williams, Benjamin Moore, Pratt and Lambert.
I don't know, maybe our paint was so poor that we didn't want our name
We didn't want to put our name on it?
No. Well, it came about in 1961. The business had been run as a partnership. First of all, with Jake Reselman, so that the name of the company at that time was Reselman Paint Manufacturing Company. And our brand was Dutch Mill. And until the brand that you know as Dutch Boy today came along and said, we're going to sue you guys because your name is too close to ours. Well, being small, we didn't want to get into anything against a big company like that.
Sure.
So we decided it was time to change the corporate name. And at the same time, we were incorporating from a partnership to a corporation. And that was a good move. That was a good move. So my dad was not a drinker. But I wonder if he had too much
Maybe
to drink.
that day it was an
I just wonder if he had too much to drink that day. Repco, of course, is Resolman Paint Company.
Okay.
Now the light.
He must have thought Repco sounded too boring on its own.
Yeah, we could have done better. The light came from the fact that a lot of people at that time were using that word as part of their logo. So you had light this and light that. And so then it became RepcoLite Paints Incorporated. And that's how the name changed. I can't tell you how many times I thought about changing it.
Oh, yeah. I've thought about it many times, too.
Yeah. I mean,
so we did make one change in the 90s, because it used to be Repco-Light.
Right.
And when
You
the
ran 'em
internet
together.
came along, the dash became a problem for having a domain name, having your website, having a dash in it was a problem.
Yeah.
So we got rid of the dash. And I remember that was an official thing. We had to change the name from RepcoLite to RepcoLite by getting rid of that dash.
Pull off the dash.
A lot of our products also over the years had a hyphen in them. You know, Ultra Shield, Aquaglow, everything had a hyphen in it, you know,
right. Yeah.
Beauty Color.
Yeah.
We've finally gotten away from that recently, but just about every product had a hyphen in the name.
So that's how the name came about. And like I said, I thought so many times about changing it, but it actually got established. And I guess if people don't like it,
they can go shop somewhere else.
That's right. I mean,
they can buy Benjamin Moore paint.
What is in a name?
Right, yeah.
What is a name? You know, a rose is still a rose, no matter if it's a rose or not. It's still a rose. So
right, and you know, if we would change the name, people would still call it RepcoLite.
I can't tell you how long they called it
Resolman. People would write checks to Resolman Paint Company when I was working, and that was 40 years after the name change.
Yeah, happened all the time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's the albatross around our neck, the name. It's what's been holding us back.
It's been holding you back, I'm sure. I'm sure. Well, you got to say one thing about it. It is unique and memorable.
Yeah.
If you had been 2-3 letters or Holland Paint Company, where would you be now?
Yeah, something generic like that.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, you're in Grand Rapids, you're on the east side of the state, in Kalamazoo, you're in Indiana. I mean, it couldn't be Holland Paint Company anymore.
Right, right. And if you go on Google and just start typing REP, RepcoLite Paint will be one of the first things that comes up, you know?
Yeah.
It's just such a unique, weird word that, So it's got its pluses and minuses.
Yeah. It doesn't really describe anything.
No.
It's just
unfortunately.
It's what my dad came up with, and so
that's the way it is.
Here we are. Here we are. Two RepcoLite guys sitting in some brown, overstuffed chairs, gabbing away.
Yep. Talking about what it used to be.
Yep.
All right, we've got to take a break, but we'll be right back in just a minute. Stick around. And we're back. You're listening to the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show, sponsored by Benjamin Moore. And it's kind of been an episode focused on Dave Altena, the second generation president of the company. His dad founded everything. His son, Dan, is running it right now. He's been on the radio with us multiple times. And Dave passed away, if you missed that, passed away earlier this week. So we're kind of just reminiscing. We just played a couple of segments with an interview that we
between
recorded.
Dan and Dave. It happened about 3 weeks ago, right? We were recording that, and it's a full video, actually. It's not just audio that we have from this interview.
And we're going to be posting that as time goes by, as we're able to get it edited and processed. We'll be posting it on social media. It's great to just watch the interaction between the two, the just memories of what they lived through, Dan growing up in the paint store, his dad before him growing up in the paint store.
Yeah, there's just some really good stories in that. It's an hour and a half long that we filmed them together, and you're just catching a glimpse of that on the radio today. But I think it's a really cool thing to go back and watch.
So if you are interested, even in just the history of how things work, I played some of these for my kids when I got them edited and said, what do you think? Can I air this on the radio? And they thought it was so interesting. They loved listening to how things were and what things were like. If that's interesting to you, definitely be checking out RepcoLite's Facebook pages, Instagram, all of that. We'll have those videos there. The website, go to RepcoLite.com. And if you click the company overview
there's
on
an
the
About Us
page, you can read about really the whole story, how we started in a chicken hatchery, all of that. A lot of good stuff there. Check that out. One of the things that I think is interesting, in the little bit that we've got left, I think about the products that they created, that Dan's grandpa, Ben, and the guys that he worked with, the products that Dave, his dad, pioneered and they came out with. And some of those are still around today. They've been tweaked.
Of course, yes. The technology has been tweaked over time as certain raw ingredients are available or not available. And as technology improves over time, we, of course, want to improve our products. But it is really amazing to think that the same names are on the shelf.
Like a Beauty Color is an oil-based product that we carry. We've made it for years and years and years. And even right now, it's seeing a resurgence in popularity because with Michigan's VOC regulations, basically you can't buy oil-based paint from larger manufacturers. There's a little kind of a loophole that they wrote into the law. They wrote it in for people like us, smaller manufacturers, but we can continue to make these oil-based products that function like oil-based products are supposed to function. We can do that for up to, I think, about 4 more years. And so if you're looking for those traditional coatings, we can still supply them.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Really cool. I think about, when I first started at RepcoLite, I let someone know that that's where I was going to be going. And
you came from Benjamin Moore.
Right. I came from Benjamin Moore.
There.
Exactly. And I was talking to someone in the paint field and letting them know that I was making the transition from Benjamin Moore to RepcoLite. And they were really excited for me. Like, oh, that's a good company. And I'm excited. They're good people over there. They know what they're doing. And they've got great products. And he had one specific story in mind. When he first bought a house in Holland, he had a neighbor next door that was about 80. And he's recounting the story about this 80-year-old man going up and down this ladder that's, kind of rickety. And he's like pretty nervous watching this happen, but goes over and has a conversation and asks him what he's doing. And this guy's telling him, oh, I'm painting the house this summer and you've got to use this primer when you paint your house. It's a primer from RepcoLite and it's the only thing I'll ever use. And just, starts telling him about the technology and why it's so great. And, he had that story for me then. These are really good products and they've been around forever.
It's really fun. You meet people, I talk to people, and it goes way back. I think it comes out in the interview. They talk about how at one point in Holland, for sure, almost everything was coated with something we either sold or manufactured.
No,
it's
cool.
Really cool. It's fun to see photos all over the internet. Still, we see them all over the place. People are posting on social media, and you scroll around, and you look in the very background, and there's RepcoLite paint cans sitting here and there. And you just think about, this is the dream that Ben Altena had.
Right.
His son carried on, and Dan is continuing to carry on. And we just wanted to take one episode and really devote all of it to telling that story and basically just saying thank you. They've given me a great job, helped me support my family, and a lot of us, 130-some employees. And we just wanted to say thanks to the Altena family and express our condolences. All right, if you are interested in checking out more of that interview or catching more of the story, be sure to go to RepcoLite.com and check it out there. Whatever you do today, make sure paint's a part of it. Have a great one. I'm Dan Hansen.
I'm Haley Johnson. Thanks for listening.